our wonderful, wonderful guests for tonight. You are both most welcome. If you'd allow me just to give our audience brief introduction about who you are. Of course, there's so much to your profiles, but let me just start with Carol. Carol Kyazze Kakooza is an extremely accomplished woman and lady in the business space. She is the CEO of aXiom Zorn, which is a data management firm here in Uganda. And you hear it from her. She's extremely passionate about what she does. But she's also a mom to four, 2 boys and 2 girls, and Nalongo as well at that. And she's also just very kind and very humble despite all her accolades in academics and business. So we're so blessed to have you with us. Carol, you're most welcome. Our next guest is Anicia Birungi Joy. Anicia. Anicia is our very own head of client success, and we are so blessed to have her with us tonight. She is such a funny person once you get to know her, but she's an incredible leader. She leads a team of 5 people who have seen XENO go from, just having 1 client to serving over 100,000 clients. So we're so happy to have both of you on the call. You can just say hi to our guests, our participants rather, who are listening in. Yeah, just go ahead. You can unmute and say hi. And then I will kind of set the protocol for the rest of the call.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Awesome.
Oh, I'm smiling.
Yeah, no, it's going to be all smiles all the way through because we have such an interesting conversation ahead of us. Yes, so we are going to have engagement in this call. We're going to have a Q&A session later on in the conversation. So make sure to drop your questions for either Carol or Anicia, and we'll be able to address them during the Q&A. If you have any XENO-related questions, we also have advisors in the chat, so feel free to drop any XENO-related questions, and someone will be able to reach out to you and give you some feedback there as well. But yes, let's dive in. Let's dive into our conversation. We are celebrating Women's Month, of course, and we thought it'd be best that we talk about what it looks like for our daughters to become decision makers. It's not an easy jump. It takes quite a lot of time. But before we really dig into that, we want to get to know you guys, Carol and Anicia. We want to get to know you a bit well. So to do that, I thought it would be really fun if I have some warm-up questions. And I'm going to be triggering similar polls in the chat as well, so that we can also get a feel out of where our guests are, in terms of how they stand with their money. So this is over to you, Carol. Quick rapid fire question. What financial decision have you made that you are the proudest of? Just one. It could be big or small. It doesn't have to be very big, but what financial decision are you extremely proud of even today?
Wow. Financial, I think the day I decided to invest into aXiom Zone, I know that's a cliche, yeah, it should be my business, but yeah, I think that the very first amount of money I decided to say I will put towards the data collection of a farmer database is the best money I've ever spent, I think. There must be others, but that one,
that one sticks out. No, that's wonderful. Awesome. And over to you, Anicia. If you could have just one superpower, financial superpower, like automatically, it doesn't, you don't have to exercise and practice, but one financial superpower, what would it be? And I'm launching this question in the poll as well for our participants.
Thanks, Joanita. I think the one financial superpower would be chief saver.
Chief saver.
I think, yes, and where I would say that because right from childhood, those people who have always had a saving box, wooden saving box. So I would think as myself as chief saver as a superpower.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us would just want to save automatically, and thank God there are features like that that XENO has. But I completely hear you. And then for you, Carol, what is one financial habit that you are working on improving right now? What would that be?
Sorry, I thought I was on online shopping.
Guilty.
That's the worst, especially if you're the type of human being who is mostly on your laptop and your phone. I think online shopping is a killer for all of us when it comes to financial management. So, and it's not just about women, as in spending on, but for me, it goes all the way to devices, server parts, stuff that can be used for coding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Stuff you
online
actually
shopping.
need.
Yeah. Online
Yeah.
shopping. I need to cut back on thinking that everybody has got the best interest at heart when they put the stuff out there. Sometimes they come and they don't work.
Yes, there's also that.
Anyway, yeah, so that's one financial habit that I need to break. Yes.
Got you. Awesome. And then lastly, for you, Anisha, this one we just want to gauge your risk. Would you rather have a guaranteed small, steady income for life or a large sum of money at once to blast?
I think I would go with option one, a guaranteed income. I am those people who want guarantee. I want to know where I'm going and what it's looking like. So being sure of where I'm going would work for me. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Wow. So I'm really glad I got a sense of, both of you and where you're starting out. And we are today going to be speaking to women at all stages of life. And we're going to be speaking to those who are, in university starting their careers. And we're going to be talking to those who are, maybe mid-career going into big leadership positions, some who might even be considering their retirement. So I really want to I want to encourage that everyone is going to see themselves in this conversation. I'd like to start with really helping our audience understand what each of you, your economic background is like, because I believe that's where we learn a lot. So over to you, Carol. What was your background, your upbringing around money? How did your parents, did they influence you at all? How did they shape your financial behavior, especially in those early stages?
Thank you very much, Jonita. I think for me, money from an early stage was a very important factor. I come from a background where my mom is a businesswoman. I don't know, some of you might be too young to remember the women who helped this economy grow were the women who used to work in Chikuvo when Chikuvo was really Chikuvo, the market place. And I remember that while I used not to touch money, it was very, very important for me to understand that even 10 shillings at that time was very, very important. And I did not, I was reminded every day of how much my school fees was. And if I did not perform very well, that money was not supposed to be wasted. So from a very young age, I knew that it was important for me to excel because somebody was paying for that education that I had. And my mom and father were not shy to say, this is paid for, you're not on a scholarship. I was going to Buganda Primary School. And so then I've got Miss Almeida, who used to make sure they whispered in your ear if you performed very low expectation, and I was a very good math student. And I remember math contests those days. So it was always very important. So I was exposed to money quite early. The comprehension of money might not be touching the money, but comprehension that money is important and that utilization of that money meant that, you put in, you must get out something. And whether it means somebody's paying for something for you to achieve something, that for me was the background where I came from. And I can give you a very, very classic example that I swore, and pardon me for those of you who are still gambling for, and trust you me, it is a financial path for some people. I don't want to come here and I'll be quoted later to say, well, Carol said, don't gamble. There's some people who have achieved from it, but I will tell you, when I was very, very young, I think about senior one, when Sudhir Ruparelia was starting out in this country, the first thing he did to the Ugandans was to do a lottery, and you would go scratch money. So one day I'm going back to Nabisunsa, and I said, well, you see, they've given me this 3,000 shillings. Now you can imagine they've given me 3,000 for my pocket money. And I stopped at the taxi park and I said, let me get this 3,000, give it in and get more. Now, from my young age, I understand I must put in for me to scratch and get more. That was the last time I've ever gambled money, because I lost it all. All I was left with was my transport money to school. I went back and I never talked about it until my graduation. But I assure you, I'll never gamble. I know that when you put in money, it must be for something you've worked hard for, not scratched, and you get it out. So that's my background, a bit on money.
That's good, and a very small price to pay at that for gambling, because it gets a lot worse. No, that's wonderful. And here you are today, and I think we can really tell, tell what that influence has done. Same question to you, Anicia. What's your background like? What lessons, influence do you feel you had from either your parents or guardians that impacted how you saw and manage money?
Okay, so for me, it would be my mom. Growing up with a single mom, then she used to work in city council. Our home was a home that was always filled with lots of people, but somehow we all made it through. We all went to school, we all had food on the table, life was, moving. And so seeing my mom being able to work, for me, even as a child, it automatically triggered in my head as someone has to work. So besides even where she was working her day job, she also had a shop where they used to sell clothes and everything. And true to her word of teaching us and training us on how to work hard, we also would go and work in these shops. So we would know how to sell things, would know how to keep, I think they're called QuickBooks or something, but like just registering and giving out receipts. So all of us, all my siblings and I can say we worked in those shops. So we knew how to handle money. At the end of the day, you'd have to account for what happened, what was the shop, what did you eat, how much did you spend on the food, what are the savings. So growing up, that was already in me, that money is worked for, but also you need to know how to handle and manage whatever finances you have. Yeah. So I would say that would be my background.
Oh, thank you for that. That's incredible. And I think that's such a, we'll talk later about, legacy and passing things on. That's something incredible that your parents were able to pass on to you at that age. So yeah, we are in the right place, really. We're in the right place. Just starting with you, Anicia, before we go over to Carol. Your early 20s, this is a time that I think a lot of people, young women, have the world before them. Either they're through with school or they've just started earning a little bit from their first job. For you at that, very early stage, what were those important investments that you made in yourself that you felt this is a good time. This is just the time to make this sort of investment. What were those for you?
Okay, thanks. So I think I'll just refer back to my superpower, being a chief saver, and why. Already with the money background that we had, my mom teaching you how to work within your means. Maybe I'll just say even at VDs, school VDs in boarding, my mom was the type that would shop for you everything that you want and give you pocket money of 20,000. Yes. So you have to figure out how you're going
20,000 in which year?
This would be what? I think 2006 or no, 2009. Yes. So you'd have to figure out how you're going to have to use this money to take you until the next VD. So what that meant, you have to start working with what you're given to press on through that term. So now coming to start working, of course, this is after campus. Now that you're working, of course, the home supply is cut off because, I mean, now you're working, you have to figure things out yourself. Of course, you still have accommodation back home. So for me, that wasn't an immediate worry of rent or everything. But with my first salary coming in, the first thing was to budget. How am I going to have my transport catered for? How am I going to have my small savings at a bank continuing? How am I going to afford the different clothing or the different eat-outs or the different meetups with my friends that I would want to have? So for me, it had to be a thing of laying out or drawing out a budget and then apportioning money to it. I think I reached a point where I had envelopes. When I'd get my salary, I would then put allocations to each envelope. So I know this money is for, the saving money, of course, goes off first. So this money is for, let's say, transport. This money is for miscellaneous. This money is for having fun. So whatever the cause was for the money, I would then touch that envelope and use it for that. When it's done, it is done. I have to then see, okay, how do I play with whatever is left for this particular thing? So that in a way helped me keep in check, but also learn to live within my means and be content with what I have currently. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I think, yes, definitely. Once you start earning a little bit of money, I don't think everyone is as logical to start managing it adequately. We might want to live for once, but that's definitely the right kind of investment to begin knowing, okay, my money is something precious and I should steward it adequately. I should steward it into things that really matter to me. So yeah, I think that's so impressive, Anicia. It's so impressive, but these lessons from your mom came in very, very handy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious at your experience too, Carol. Were you as structured as Anisha, envelope system and all?
Actually, as she was talking, I was laughing at, if you noticed, I wish I had just switched off my video. Oh my God, you must have been a very disciplined young lady. I did not have that discipline. I'll tell you that the first thing I bought when I got money was I bought a car in my second year. And so first of all, I've had so much responsibility as I was growing up. I come from a background of very many children. My father has 16 children. And out of the 16, we have 5 of us from my mom. So at a very young age, I learned to take care of my siblings. I might not be the firstborn, but I'm the second born. And my eldest sister, at that time, I think, was used to the fact that mommy and daddy was providing everything. So, we've got those siblings that know mommy and daddy will provide. And then there you go, come after about 6 years later. And so mommy and daddy are not working in government anymore because my father was working in government. And I remember from an early stage, He was working with Farmer's House and all that history. Probably I'll not take you down the lane, but I had a lot of responsibility. I remember my very first salary when I finished my senior six, I started working. And I remember going back home and I told my mom, I've gotten a job. It's going to give me 2,500 shillings per week. That was a lot of money then. This was 2000, yes, 2000. And 2,500 was a lot of money. It was 3,500, I think. And this lady used to give me 500 shillings a day for me to go back home. And I was working in one day gear. And I have always been in Rotary. So one of those events, I meet Bat Kakooza. And Bat says, well, you speak very nice English. You can speak. Can you speak through a camera? And I said, yes, I can. I really can. So he calls me to his office after I had worked for a month or two, jumping over a table in a kiosk. Because you know how a kiosk is, the kiosks that were in one day gear, you'd have to jump over that top counter for you to get to the back. And it was so amazing. I was so little. I think I must have weighed about 40 kgs. So Bat says, you know, you can come. And I got to interview. And I successfully became a news anchor in my senior six vacation. And good enough, I had also had two options to either become a lawyer or to become a journalist, which was mass communication. So Bat Kakooza helped me a lot to make a decision on whether I should become a lawyer or just go for mass communication. And so that was made a lot easier. But I remember my first time that to get money. With Bat, there was no money. He was training me to become a news anchor. And so I had to hustle to make sure. So during the day, I would go and work at Bat Kakooza's. And then during the night, I would go to One Day Gear, that same lady, and I'll ask her, can I be at your show? Because there's nobody there. And then she would give me this money. So I remember my first salary, I got that money and I went and bought a kilo of meat for my parents. And said, you've always come home with this money. I want to give back something. And that has always been the spirit. So I left that job and joined Africa Online. And I remember my first biggest salary after I had saved for some time. I went to a bond and I got myself a very nice chikumi. So you were very, very very disciplined, Anisha. I didn't. I used to save for my transport, because remember I was on campus, I was paying my fees myself. We were paying 700,000 shillings for my mass communication degree. So I made sure that that money was saved and it was there. And what is so beautiful was how my mom was so humble, and she would always come and help me to make the payment. She'd always say, no, you've got the money, the least I can do is come and help you. We used to have a very hard process of payment. And I remember when my young brother joined university, I opted, I said, I'll pay half of his money. So that is how that is how I managed my money as a young woman. And this was in my 20s. At the age of 23, I got married immediately. The year I graduated is the year I got married. So, so from that onset, you're married, you have a family, and of course, I didn't get to give birth until after 5 years. But from then on, for me, mine has been to allocate the money to something. I save, but there's always that responsibility. In my early ages, I would tell you that the biggest thing I've ever bought for myself, I bought for myself in my younger age, was that car, the Chikumi. that car, I used to park it in one day and make noise for everybody, and I was okay with annoying everybody for as long as nobody took away the parts. But I put an alarm in it. That is the biggest that I ever spent on myself. The rest of the money was always allocated to, I either have to pay for somebody's school fees. There's a child that is in the village that has decided to say, oh, we've heard that you're in town and you're doing something. You're at a funeral, and this child comes and you're like, okay, I'll pay school fees for the next 2 years. And then you're allocating money to that. But I've always known that there must be allocation. So I didn't do like Anisha to put envelopes. I don't even think I can handle cash that well. But what I did was I always apportioned it towards a certain responsibility. Of course, when I was at the university, I had to pay for my, this is still about investing, using money for money. I got a room at Mary Stewart, but I rented out my room. Oh God. I rented out my room for 300,000 per semester for me to go out to the Kasule flats to rent out and get a flat that was where I was paying only 100,000. Now, what did that mean? That meant that I had freedom to move around and do whatever I had to do without me being interrupted by the university system. And I'm not telling anybody online to do that. I know there are young people listening here, but that gave me a little bit more leeway to do a lot of things. I'd never had bad manners, so like you see, I got married at 23. But the payment of that rent gave me responsibility that somebody has got to stay somewhere. And I think for me to communicate to young ladies, might not be for you to have a lot of money in the bank. It is for you to learn the responsibility on how to manage your money. Now, you find a young woman like Anicia who is very responsible, but you also need to understand the other side of it, that where I come from is that I could not stay at home because home was very far from university. I also had to go and work. So you find that those young people, you'll be also find, and I hope there are also young men here, comprehension that payment of your dues, and I'll say dues, is important in life. Enhance your financial management as a human being, and in this case, as young people. As a young woman, you must know nobody's going to pay your way. Nobody's going to pay for your apartments like I hear these days. Yeah. So understanding that you must pay your way with whatever amount of money you've got is very, very important. So that was my 20s till about 23 when I got married. I mean, I joined university at about 19 and a half, 20. When I joined university until I left, I knew that when I got money, that is how I had to manage it. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely incredible. And I think some of the tests that young people go through at that stage, of course, you're probably not earning very much, and a lot of people can want to look down at that money and imagine it's nothing, but actually it's teaching you, it's kind of laying the foundation for what you're going to be doing when you earn a lot more, and when you have a lot more responsibility on your plate. So I like the fact that these investments are not strictly financial, but they're ways that you got to learn about, about yourself, about, what's important to you and how do you align your money to that. So thank you so much. I want to switch into the gear of transitioning into motherhood, because this is a very key area. We can, you can live as a single person, maybe you're not married for a while, but once you become a mother, it's a completely new stage. And I'm I'm speaking from an outsider's point of view because I don't have any kids yet, but I know both of you do, and you have transitioned into this stage of motherhood. This is a phase that affects how we earn, how we spend, how we save, touches on all areas. So I want to start with you, Anicia. In your transition, which you can maybe speak to because it didn't happen too long ago, what was your experience like, and were there any intentional changes that you made to how you're managing money before?
All right, thanks, Jo. So my daughter is currently 1.5 years. So before that, of course, it was just my husband and I enjoying life, saving, of course, but also, it's just the two of us seeing how to make it work, how to enjoy the marriage and everything. Now, in comes the child. First and foremost, your mind just switches to now the child. You're already thinking about the child's future, who has just been born. You want to see the very best for your child, all the things that you would have wanted for yourself, all the things you experienced and you'd want them to experience, you're already laying out whatever it is for the child. Even before I reach the future, there are diapers, there is milk, there is bottles, there's just a lot of rearranging of your lifestyle, not only just your finances, but there's a lot of rearranging of your lifestyle, your finances, your everything that goes around with children coming into play. So for me, I would say the first thing was now, like I already mentioned, having to think about how do we start saving for this, our new girl, so that at any one point, again, should she need anything or should we need to get her anything, we are having the money even before she was born. And I think maybe this is courtesy for all mothers out there. You want to have some shopping done even before the baby is here, so you're ready, or you're not caught unaware for lacking some of the needs that you would need. So, and that comes as an expense, which unless otherwise you need to plan for, so it doesn't kick you back. So I would say for us, it came down to budgeting, yeah, but also saving for what exactly we needed. And right now, I must confess, my biggest investing or my biggest saved or invested money is towards my girl, but not forgetting myself. But I just find more portions or percentages being towards her goal. Okay, in terms of the XENO account that we have, but you know, just seeing that whatever it is, we are trying as much as we can to start saving for her. Yeah.
No, that's really understandable, you know, but then mom brain, and then you have to now switch back and remember you you know, you still have your own needs that you need to think about. Yeah, it becomes something, you know, you start thinking for two, really, two or three or more.
Yeah.
So Carol, I think you're a perfect person to speak to this area, where we had a question actually last webinar, and people, you know, were a bit triggered. Maybe not triggered is the right word, but it affected a lot of people around that issue of, you know, sometimes as women, when you're, you know, you become mothers, it also sometimes requires that you step back from, you know, whatever career path that you are pursuing. Maybe this really becomes something important for you. You prioritize. Maybe could you speak to women who are considering this or who have already taken this path of, you know, just stepping back, maybe for a few years, or, you know, until, you know, they figure out something. What considerations should they make as they you know, as they are stepping back from their career, and it has an effect to their ability to earn? What considerations would you advise that women make, and maybe how did you think through that process yourself as you became a mom?
My first disclaimer here, I hope you give me enough time to talk about. Can you hear me?
Sorry, you're a bit low, but I think when you come
you
closer, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, slightly. It's I'm still hearing the volume down. Let me make sure. Okay, go again. Yes,
Can
okay,
you hear me
that's
now?
better. Yeah, that's better.
I wanted this to be very loud and clear. My first disclaimer is that there's no pregnant woman who is sick.
Pregnancy is not a sickness.
And I disagree. It's not. It's not. And let us stop doing this to ourselves as ladies, as women. I disagree with the Baganda. I am a Mugana. I am called Navagereka. Bagamba Yalwadde. And who said? I get sick from my very first, the moment that the pregnancy test shows the 2 lines until my 4th month. But I assure you I work, because pregnancy is not a disease.
Yes.
We saying we want to be like the men. We want to get as much money as the men. We want to get equal opportunities. We are so emancipated. Let us understand where we're coming from as mothers and as young ladies. And I hope there are women on this here who can listen and understand, and especially to the young ladies who are planning the family. Being pregnant, being married is not a disease. You having to do your different chores in the morning, you decide to do those chores. You being married and saying, I have got to prepare and steam my husband's shirt and let it look like it just came out of a dry cleaners, is your mandate as a wife. Again, when you decide to have a baby, whether you intend to have that baby or it is implanted, or it's a decision that you've planned you plan to have this child, you are not sick. And so because you're not sick, we have to maintain that's just an extension of our body. Yes, it is heavy. Yes, it carries its own discomforts, but we are not sick and our brains do not go with the pregnancy. That's the first disclaimer I have to make here. And this is from a person who falls sick from the moment I get, in the first week of my pregnancy to the 4th month, I am so undesirable, you would hate me because I spit at every moment. I am throwing up, but I have to make sure I work. And we have those little times called sick leave and maternity, not maternity leave, sick leave and our annual leave. I have utilized a lot of that during my times of pregnancy. I've been pregnant 4 times. My first child passed away. I have a 15-year-old son. I have a 10-year-old son, and I have 6-year-old twins. And at all times, on all those intervals I have told you, I have transitioned from one job to the next. Why? Why? It is so funny how I planned out. I did not plan out my life that way, but somehow I think there's that whole little brain behind it that allows you to plan. And this has happened that every time I want to make a career change, a career transition, in 2009, I gave birth to my son and moved from the World Vision to Uganda. No, I moved from the World Vision to the international expatriate position that they gave me. In 2013, when I gave birth to my son, my second son, I moved from Grameen Foundation to Mexico. This is not what I asked for everybody to do, because most people don't work, are not like me, who was a job prostitute. I've moved from so many jobs, but I've done that because I feel we tie ourselves to these jobs as if it's I think for me it has always been the passion, where I see growth, where I see that I'm going to grow. But it's so funny that I've managed to grow during that transition. When I go for maternity leave, I'm pregnant that whole year within that same organization. The next thing that happens when I come back, I surely want to move to the next level. And somehow I have always moved. Now, I want to address the question that you've given me. How do we handle motherhood and career? We shouldn't be affected. I know that we have single mothers on here and we have those that are married. It's not an ideal situation all over, where I should be talking for only those that are married. I've been married for 20 years. This year I make my 20th year in marriage. And I assure you, it's not an easy one when you have to decide. An example, I'll give you a classic example that just happened, Jonita, right now. Remember when I was so confused about my connectivity? My second son has autism, and they are on holiday. We'll start next week to school, but he's got dreadlocks, and he had refused to touch his head. And when they called me, we were on call together, and he was making so much noise in the salon that my eldest son said, "Hey, Mom, they're going to call security on us." And as a mother, at that point when I was talking to you, I had to make a decision. Do I focus on this commitment I have here for you today? Or do I assign his father to say, go and handle this situation? I am not going to get panicked. I must stay the course, because my life matters too. It's not just about the children. We have got to make sure that we don't lose ourselves as parents. I love children so much, so much. I assure you, the investments you're talking about, Anisha, they come with time. But recently had to do a bone marrow transplant for my twins. My twins had sickle cell. And so for us to make sure that they don't have sickle cell for the rest of their life, I had to put aside all the money we had invested into their medical so that they could get the bone marrow transplant. Is it a decision that was easy for me to make as a mother? No. But I had to make a decision for their future, for their lives, a better life. Is it okay for me to keep the money on the account to grow an interest, whereas these children suffer? No. So we are at crossroads here when you talk about motherhood as a young parent and as an older parent. They're two different things. As they grow, you start to make certain decisions. I assure you, I actually, when you talked about the little savings, I was going to go and pull out all the piggy banks I have in this house. Because so many piggy banks. Everybody in this house, we don't keep coins. My 6-year-old twins, when they find coins, the coins are not yours anymore. Even if they found for a chef, they will take them because they know that is their saving. That is how I have trained them to save. And of course, they have their account, which is on fixed deposit, so that whatever money we put there grows. But going back to your question on who we are as people, never lose yourself as a parent. And secondly, we sit in these classes when we're at university. You're at uni with the next boy, and he's gonna take his 5 years for him to grow his career. And for you in your second year into your career, you're going to get married. That disruption must happen. So as young girls, as young ladies, let us plan for it. I hear all these empowered, women who say, for me, I am fast growing my career and all that. Well, that's a decision you can make. But the balance of life says, as a woman, you must get married, have children, procreate, and ensure that you also run that family. Today, a long time ago, women used not to work. Today, you've got to balance. Because if you don't balance that income in the household, your partner is going to break. And that's the reality. We cannot let them be the only ones to pay I hear the stories. I don't know, I have not experienced them. But for me, I don't think I can have $2,000 on my account while my husband is suffering with a $1,000 school fees bill. And I am seated and I am looking at him sweating it out. We must understand the balance of life. It's actually selfish. Now, are women supposed to be given? Yes, we have powers. We should be given. We should be plucked and used for all the beautiful things. But we must be able to understand the balance of life. But the way you want to be treated as special is the same way you should ensure that you as a woman grows. Because in your 40s, where I am today, if you don't have a career and they have grown and they are leaving your house, what are you left to do? To sew, to knit, sit back in your corner and work?
I'm interested, Carol, because I think you really touched on something that I wanted to draw attention to, given the fact that you have kind of bust the myth that it's impossible. It's impossible to be a parent. It's impossible, and at the same time have a career and excel at it and grow into it. I completely 100% agree at that level of ownership that women have to take. And I just wonder as well, on the side of, given that you've come through so many organizations, you said you jumped from one job to the other. What have you seen other ways that, and you right now you're CEO of a company yourself. What are the ways that women can be supported where sometimes this sort of seems impossible for a lot of women, and some of them have to step back. What role do businesses have to really invest in women and support them to maintain both very, very important parts of their lives, career and family? What are maybe like one or two things that you can share with us?
There's quite a lot that businesses can do to support women and young ladies in the different businesses. I always dispute to people who you'll hear men who discuss and say, for me, I would rather hire a man than hire a woman because the women in my department all decide to get pregnant at the same time. And have you had that? And they all go and leave at the same time. I have had that so many times, and I keep asking myself, so what? That is planning for you. And balancing that department is one of the first ways you've got to support that woman in that department, so that they are not even worried that, when I go away on leave, I will be pushing this baby and my finance director will be asking, this account number of XYZ is not working because of X and Y. The fact that you balance it out is very, very important. The comprehension of us as leaders and as a CEO, I'll tell you, I've gone through, and I don't want people to forget that we are female and the whole gender card. But for me, as I hopped from one job to the other, I never thought about my gender. And that's the first thing that we must do as ladies. Never use the gender card as a pattern, as a path for growth. I know that they do it for us at the university. They've given us extra points and all that. But every time you think you're going to be treated special, then you're not going to benefit. Work as hard as the next man. Make sure that you achieve as the next man. Because as women, we actually have to work harder for you to be listened to in that boardroom. Be as authentic as possible, because if you start speaking the same language the next gentleman is going to speak, then we've had it all. We've already had it all. So innovation is where your bedrock is. That is where you come from. As all women, we must make sure that we innovate, we think outside the box, because that's when somebody will listen to us in the boardroom. So when you think that, because you're a female, you must be treated different. No, you actually have to think extra, you have to do extra, you have to innovate extra. We also have to produce. I remember I have to look after the family, but that, and unless we embrace it and stop wallowing about us being female and wanting to be treated special, we are not going to move anywhere. That is how I have gotten to where. That is what makes me stand out as the first data management business in Uganda and in Africa, because I know I have gone out and looked for the most difficult business model to implement. And why did I do it? Even when everybody was speaking the corridors and saying, data cannot work anything. I am surviving. It is the 7th year. As you are decided to register me for something I am not responsible for. I'm saying they're doing that because they don't even understand my business. And until they've understood my business, then they can register. So you're that attractive and you're still a woman, I would push the next woman to, first of all, do not treat yourself any special. Let them treat themselves special. They are the man. They have it all laid out easily for them. I'm not saying it's an easy life for women, but for us to stand out as women, we must know that we must excel. You being pregnant is not your family. They say the man is the head of the family, yes, but you lead that family. If I see a man who is failing, I must look at his wife.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Carol. I'm going to quickly transition into the last few minutes of our conversation before we open up our questions. I want to transition into the long term. And this is something that across the board, we don't think about. I remember a statistic like 10% of people really plan for their retirement. So, Anicia, is retirement a blind spot for you as well? Maybe you're maybe you've ignored it all along. Just talk to us, and what does long-term financial planning actually look like for you?
Okay, thanks, Joe. So I'll keep referencing to being a chief saver, but I'll also mention I am those people who want to live now. Like I want to enjoy life. I like adventure. I like living, having good things and not just fully, being a person or being an extremist, of just purely everything kept away, deny everything. No, I believe God has blessed us with life to live now, but that doesn't mean that you do not plan for the future, right? So retirement specifically, I'll be honest, it's something that I hadn't thought about or even sat down to consider. I knew I was saving money. I knew I had savings somewhere in a bank being put up for, at any time that I needed something. But retirement specifically isn't something that I had sat back to think about until 3 years when I joined my current employer, where it was actually a mandatory thing, right? So even it being a mandatory thing at first, it didn't really add up. I mean, we can still save for 5 years, we can save for 10 years, but why save when we are at retirement age? It is until when you start seeing this money grow slowly by slowly, every month that it is being put, every month that it is earning or simply being invested, and you cannot have access to it, is where you start thinking that, oh, actually, I need to start planning or saving for this too, because when that time comes, unless otherwise, you cannot be having a guaranteed monthly salary. So you need something like a buffer that will be able to take care of you. So right now, I would say that 3 years later, Anicia is different from the 3 years Anicia now. So I would say retirement is something that I would put it as a goal, if I should call it as a goal, something that I would need to apportion money to alongside my other key different projects or goals that I would need to save for. Yeah, but again, not denying living now. Yeah. So it's just causing a balance, but also thinking of the future. Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that you've shifted your envelope system into a more advanced way of putting towards, your now and your future goals as well. That's fantastic. And for those of you who are not aware, XENO is a financial management platform. We help you plan for your future goals, and we allow you to save gradually towards them. So a lot of people might ask you for a lump sum. We can't all afford what we're going to need in retirement the day we retire, but we allow you to plan way ahead for all those goals. So yes, be sure to go over to myzeno.com and you'll be able to learn more about what we do and learn how you can use goal-based investment to achieve your financial goals. So I'm going to go to the last question of our conversation, and I really just want to know, you've done so much, Carol, so far. What is your legacy and how is your money shaping up to that legacy? Like, what legacy are you building long term? And yes, how your finances etching towards that vision?
Before I talk about my legacy, I want to interest XENO into something aXiom is doing. So aXiom has 600,000 households registered to it. And I think XENO here can be one of the partners for aXiom. How? I have been struggling, and I hope there's somebody for NSSF here and UBRA online who is online. Me, I'm a go-getter. And aXiom having access to 600,000 farmers or households, here is how XENO will benefit. If we put a wallet on aXiom's card or aXiom's profile, and we ensure that each of those farmers at least saves 1,000 shillings a week, do you know how much financial empowerment or inclusion or gates will have opened for each of those farmers? Now, while I'm struggling with NSSF to see me and hear me, XENO here can be. And go to Anicia, who is the client successful, I don't remember her full title, to please make sure that
client success.
after this very interesting webinar, so that we can put the 600,000 households I have on my platform, and I'm hitting 1 million this year, onto a very good saving platform. And I say this without jokes, because I have seen my parents. My father is 78 years old and he still does lecture. For some of you who have gone to MOOBs, you've seen Dr. Kyazze. Today, he's lecturing at Chisubi University. He's doing it at Clark's. The question would be, if our national savings and investment and preparation for retirement was very functional, my husband, my father, my dad would not be working at 78 years old. And the reason I say this, and I give him as an example, Dr. Kyazze has worked for this government ever since he was from university, ever since he left his university. He has worked so hard that all of us 16 children, I think it's only 2 of us that don't have not 2 of us, but only 2 of my siblings don't have master's degrees. I have 2 master's degrees. Most of my siblings have master's degrees. I have 3 siblings with PhDs, and he has been party to all this. But he's done that from a government salary. Now, I know that government does gratuity and all that, but how much do we prepare for them when they are older than 60 years old? If we got a farmer today, 68% of our Ugandan population are farmers.
Yeah.
And because they are farmers, they don't have a retirement plan. XENO here, and I'm still pitching, Jonita.
No, I think we are completely in agreement, actually. I want us to take that conversation to Anicia and some of our team, because definitely we are extremely interested in extending this sort of financial security to, people who are sometimes excluded even from the financial sector. But yes, is this, the legacy that you envision, or is there something more concrete that,
I want something bigger.
Even bigger.
Doing this would be a plus for my portfolio, but data has always been a very strange subject for many people, apart from all of you quoting it and saying data is the new gold. But do you understand it? Do you understand that data is an infrastructure that should be given to each and every human being? And for me, one of the things I want to leave behind whenever the Lord decides to take me, is that I want to leave behind that I left behind a data infrastructure, like a road, like water, like data, internet, like connectivity. I want to say that one day somebody will say, we managed to be able to get access to finance because of the data that was given to us, was taken from us from aXiom Zone, and they know more about us because of aXiom. And the reason I say that is that we have farmers deep down in Kisoro, deep down in Buko, who have never known what a banking hall looks like. But today we speak to them and we're able to get their data and credit scores. When I talk about a credit score, for those of you who are online and are bourgeois, you think I'm talking about a credit score of how much transactions we are spending on our credit cards and Visa cards. No, I'm talking about a credit score that is deprived, is retrieved from the size of land you have, the number of children you have because it's labor, the house you have, the type of crop you grow, the yields you have each year, that make up a credit score. And because we've managed to give you visibility, Mr. John Salong was somewhere deep down in the village. We have managed to give you money for you to use on your farm. That is my legacy. That utilizing that power that you already have. You don't sit in your little hut and say, I am here and nobody knows me. The government will never know I exist. I want you to be known. And if I can empower you and bring a smile to your face, that is what I want to leave behind.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Carol. And thank you, Anicia. We are going to go into a Q&A section now. We have one question from a Nabwire Lillian. Thank you for dropping your question here. I'm going to point this to Anicia. She's asking, how do you balance saving for your children's future education and your future retirement? Yes, you touched on a bit of that already, but maybe just help Lillian, who's starting from ground level. How would you advise her to begin saving for multiple goals that she has, including education and retirement?
Okay, thanks, Joe. And I'll say this as someone who is not as an employee or anything, but for me, how I was able to save for more than one thing is simply doing goal-based investing. Goal-based investing simply to mean I say I want to have money set aside for my child. I'll set up a goal and apportion a percentage to it. I want to save for my future home, set up a goal, apportion to it. I want to save for my retirement, set up a goal, apportion to it. So now when I get the money, so now I'll say in terms of we, my partner and I, when we get our monies, we are now able to apportion whatever it is or whatever goals that we have and want to save and invest for. So I'd say it is simply setting your goals, knowing what your monies are, and then apportioning percentages of your savings to these different goals that you want to have and save for. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I like that. Thank you so much, Anicia. Yes, separating your goals and allocating to each of them according to what you earn is very important. I am going to encourage our audience to drop some more questions. We have a bit of time to direct any inquiries or questions we have for Carol and Anicia. But Carol, before I take another question from the audience, we have this thing of having a very limited budget as young people today, and it's one of the things that holds a lot of people back when they think, oh, I can't save, or I don't earn nearly enough. What would you advise people who are on a very, very, very tight budget? Maybe they're not even earning. What's important at that stage? Or how can you help? How can you advise them to manage or be master of their finances, even if it's not a lot?
So there's never enough. There's never enough. I will tell you that I would have $1 million and it's not enough. So there's never enough. But understanding how much you can live within your means is a very, very important aspect of financial management. Now, I want to speak on the simple person who runs an outdoor vending business. Somebody who sells the simplest thing, tomatoes, does have the best financial management. She knows she's used 20,000. She's bought 20,000 worth of tomatoes today. And tomorrow, when she sells them, she'll get 25. She will get the 5,000 and save it in her little box and go back and still buy for 25. Still gets 25 the following day, buy for 20,000 and save the 5,000. That day she gets 30,000. Do you know what she will do? she will buy tomatoes for 25,000. I have gone to the very basics, and I'm sure Anicia here, who is very good at this type of financing, would agree with me that every time you have an increment in terms of profitability, do not again then take it to the savings. Have a planned saving amount and say, I am only to save 10,000 shillings. Whether I get 15,000, I will get the 10,000. We are creatures of habit. And whenever we break habit, we get a problem. And that's why you notice that you'll never find a lottery winner become the national economic planning something. They always waste the money and you'll never remember they existed. I don't know if we still remember who won the Hyundai for Sudiru Pareri, you know, those days. But at the end of the day, they won this money after putting in scratched all the people who used to get the beer bottles and, you know, for that UBL, you know. But one of the things I'll tell whoever that young person is, have a standard, have a particular amount in your brain. Even if it is 2,000 shillings, put it aside. Put it aside, like I've done for my children. Any coin in this house, their coin, and it is what they use, we use for saving. I want to go back though to the question, the first question. And here is when I want to do Kalango for XENO. The question they just asked for Anicia, having portions. I think setting up and understanding the business that you're doing is one of the first parts for that particular question. And I don't want to do a lot of Kalango so that people go and say, I did Kalango for you, but I think comprehending people's saving mechanisms and because I would give an example of other insurance firms that are doing this, but you're doing exactly that. And this goes for those who are salary earners. Apportion an amount of money from your salary and then save it because you know you're going to invest it later. So many people have had their savings put to a certain saving scheme, but we see that interest every year, but we don't have access to those funds to use them as collateral or anything. So thinking around this would be very, very important for firms like them.
Carol, you have another one that we've just got through, and this is a very interesting question. Fiona Mbeza is asking, how did you prepare yourself and your finances in transition between employment and self-employment? That is a very yes, it's a bit of a tricky space. So how did you go about it? If you could advise Fiona.
I started aXiom when I was 35. And I made a promise to myself when I turned 28 years that I was not going to be in employment the moment I turned 35. So that's the first, like I said, we are creatures of habit. The moment you make the decision that you're going to do something, put it somewhere, write it somewhere, place it somewhere, put it in a magic box somewhere, and let it remind you. And so from the moment I turned 28 years old, I started, first of all, to build the business model of the business I wanted to do. And secondly, to save towards making sure that I had the business I had to. And one of the ways I was saving was not just getting money, was to make sure I was employed at a level at which if I decided to open a business, the savings that I got, my gratuity, and the benefit from the former workplace was enough to start my business. And that's exactly what I did. When I left the Netherlands Space Office, the money they had been paying me, plus the gratuity they had taken away, because for me, I wasn't paying NSSF at that time, despite the fact that NSSF still has a lot of my money, and it is there safe. But the money they were taking away, in the Netherlands, you're given 25% of your salary that is saved as gratuity, plus my salary, which of course was not being saved very well because I have children, I have all these expenses, that gratuity, and I had a life insurance medical plan, which also required that if I moved from that country, Signal would be able to deposit a certain amount of money into my account. That is how I started my organization. So from that, I will tell you, I started aXiom with $72,000. And I know for somebody who is calculating that, how did you set up office? Oh my God, what did you know, when you go into that calculation, but I had to make sure that that is exactly the amount of money I needed for me to start before I got any work from anybody. And my first job was $4,900 that was given to me by Heifer International when they first gave me the first job. But to answer that question, plan, and action. That is very, very important. When I got to 28, I said, I must start my farm at 35. I started the farm at exactly 35 because that's when I gave birth to the twins. And the moment I did that, so you must make sure that you're disciplined enough when you decide. Now, in terms of finances, I did not say I saved all the way from 28. No, I made sure I was earning enough to be able to get a benefit at the end of that employment journey so that I would be able to start my farm. And that's how I've managed.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you, guys. I'm going to have to close the questions here due to time, but thank you all for sending in your questions to both Carol and Anicia. I just want to ask Carol, how can our audience reach out to you further? Yes, if someone wants to reach out to you and have you of one of these, or just has a question, a random question to put out to you, how can they reach you?
Thank you very much, Jonita. I'm very, very good at LinkedIn, guys. Very good. The reason I'm good at it is because it pops up in my email whenever somebody is communicating, which doesn't happen with X or Twitter. So I'm not very good with Twitter. I'm very good with LinkedIn. So I'm sure that Jonita will be able to drop my LinkedIn account into the chat box. You can reach out to me in chat. My email is always accessible, but I prefer my private email, not the aXiom email, because it's possible my IT people might throw it out when we have some sense of security. I'm very, very passionate about mentoring young people. And so some of these, like what XENO has done today, I feel we need to talk a lot more about financing. How do we become better financed, better in better standing in terms of finance? And I know the 1 hour is up. I'd love to speak to anybody about it. I'm very good with crisis management, especially when you have a financial problem. But you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on email, on my private email. And should you have one of these that you want me to speak at, drop me an email. I'm happy to jump in and we discuss more. I love financial inclusion. I want to see a lot more people exposed to financial freedom. And I think we can do it. We are a very small country, but unless we look out for our own, we're not going to wait for other people to give us money. I know so many of us are looking for PDM and all those things, but you've got to do it for yourself first. And until you get financial freedom. So I'm happy to jump on any of these panel sessions and speak about how I'm managing. I'm not perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. I have
no, but you
I
have
my
a lot of
downfalls,
insight. Yeah, no, thank you so much,
yeah.
Carol. Really appreciate it. I've just dropped your email in the chat for anyone who wants to reach out to you. Anicia, how do people reach out to you? How do they reach out to XENO?
Okay, so for XENO, we are available on our website, that is www.myxeno.com. You can reach us on our client service email, that is uganda@myxeno.com. You can also reach us via WhatsApp or voice call. I'll just drop the number here in the chat for any inquiries you might you have about saving and investing. And also just to drop in, we start with as little as 10,000 shillings to set up an account, and you're set up for success for whatever goal or anything that you have your mind towards saving for. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Anisha. So that draws to close our conversation tonight. You have been a wonderful, wonderful panel. I've taken away, things of like, not running away from work, being able to give young people opportunities to learn how to manage their money. Yeah, so many nuggets from this. Be assured that we will be sharing this video to our YouTube channel for those who registered. If you missed, we'll be able to send an email to you so you can watch it later on. Yes, and feel free to go over there, share it when you're done. Once again, thank you guys for joining us for a wonderful, wonderful evening. We wish you a prosperous month ahead. We wish you a very happy Easter ahead for those who are celebrating with their families. Stay safe. And yes, to our guests, Carol, it's Carol's birthday tomorrow, so she's really doing us a humongous favor being here. Happy birthday to you, Carol. Thank you all once again. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanita. Bye. Good night.